Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How you doing, bro?
I am doing okay. I got a heck of a cough. So I'm
Huh?
probably not going to be, I said I have a heck of a cough
Oh,
right now. Weather change, I think, may have got me a little bit. So I don't know
right.
how much talking I'm going to be doing between coughs, but I'm hoping your video, were you able to get it, find it, the recording?
Yeah, you didn't get it?
Oh, you want me to play it?
Oh, I thought you said you were trying to open the video. No,
No. I was just asking if you found that video and
yeah,
were
I
able.
do. I do, and I got it. You see where I got it. I got it right where the it starts on my hour.
Exactly. Good. So I made you co-host already.
Okay,
So
good.
whenever we get started and we're ready, you'll have free access to that.
Okay, all right. Sounds like one.
Oh man. So what
Hope
what do you think
everybody's
about
home.
what do you think about your Democrats today?
Not a whole lot. Unless they got a plan, I don't know. I mean, you know.
Hopefully they have a plan.
Well, if in order for it to activate on it, the speaker got to admit the other lady,
Right.
you know, and which would free up votes for the Epstein file.
Exactly.
So from that point of view, right, you know, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how important the Epstein files are to you.
Yeah,
They're not that important to me. I know that a whole bunch of people, conservative, liberal, whatever men, were involved in that situation.
and international people.
Yeah,
And Trump already collected a lot of money under the promise he would protect them.
exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, I don't know if that's your leverage to make sure that
Yeah, I don't know.
healthcare premiums, that problem is solved. I don't know.
Then
I mean,
Trump telling them to go ahead.
that's a good trump card.
But Trump telling them to bypass that and just give the money directly to the people.
Trump is crazy.
They crazy, they sure on it.
Man, let me tell you, all the used car lots going, yeah, give them the money.
Yeah, yeah, because they gonna spend it.
Exactly. They paying no premium. Going there and get them a nice little Dodge.
Then they'll really be in trouble.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're gonna really be in trouble. We'll see.
That's the only problem I have with the whole universal basic income thing. Is if you give people $30,000 a year, some of them, because AI took their job, they're gonna mess most of that money off.
Well, anywhere you go, brother.
Yeah.
And the wealthy have it in a minute.
Exactly.
But at least they had to work for it. Now they're just giving it to them.
I would rather give people vouchers for housing, for insurance, for I don't know, transportation, public transportation vouchers. Right. They can get around rather than put cash in their hand. Because I've seen that disaster before. Does not work. Assalamu alaikum, Imam Talib.
Walaikum Islam. I heard you talking about not giving them people no nothing that has cash value to it.
Right. Because they don't have the training. We haven't trained them yet.
Right. I know I'm actually experiencing that right now with a disabled veteran that's mad with me because I would not get him a TrueLink card.
Okay.
I didn't even know what it was until, I looked it up. And now I did get him a prepaid MasterCard,
Okay.
but the one that I got him, can't say about all of them, but the one I got him does not allow you access to cash.
So no cash advances on that bad
Right.
boy.
You can't use it at an ATM or use it at a grocery store and then try to get cash back.
Okay.
It won't allow for that.
Okay.
But my understanding was, at least what I was told, was that this veteran had a gambling problem and his access to cash needed to be limited. So I took that as being the case. Only to discover from VA that their preference was, that I'm not to put my values on him.
Right. Right.
All right. Now, but that came as a mixed message because
Go ahead. I have a question for you when you're
we
done.
getting ready to get started, though, ain't we?
Right, but my question is, if his problem is gambling, is the gambling that he's doing illegal gambling or legal gambling?
No, he's doing, far as I know, it's lottery tickets.
Okay.
And he even, because we're in the DMV, he even has a preference for where he wants to buy his lottery tickets.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And there was a moment where I just, in fact, it still exists today, where I just decided, I don't care what you do or say, I'm not giving you cash to gamble with, because once he made the statement to me that gambling, that lottery was his God, I was done with him.
Okay. All right. Hey,
That was,
on that note, why don't you go ahead and open us up this evening?
yes, sir. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen.
Amen.
Wonderful. So, man, I got some more questions for you on that particular veteran. But a quick question for Sister Martha. An hour ago, roughly, I tried to access Imam Abdulaziz's broadcast, and I was not able to. Was there a
Really?
problem tonight?
No, we just ended.
Okay. Then it must have been
I
something.
know
I must have used the wrong link or something then to try to get in.
today that she had problems getting on, and someone else noted a problem, I think yesterday. So we're not really aware. So I'll note that to Manira to see if there's any kind of changes. But as far as us on our setup, there are no changes.
Okay. All right. All right. Then Imam Adam Bia, you have control of the screen.
Okay. Can y'all see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, alhamdulillah. And let me find something. I came home and my organization is not what it should be, but I'll speak from what I can remember. For those of you that didn't have a chance to, first of all, let me Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. For those of you that didn't have a chance to catch my programming on this last Thursday, I want to play excerpts of the program, and we interviewed a brother that is a descendant, sixth generation descendant of Sam and Jane Harper, and they were an African American couple who were enslaved in Missouri, but they were found their way to freedom with the assistance of John Brown, and they ended up in Windsor, in Canada, in Ottawa. I think it was Windsor, but it ended up in Canada. This was in 1859, I believe, and through a mutual acquaintance, I ran across the guest, and I was able to reach out to him, and finally got up with him and invited him on the program, and that's what we saw. So I thought it was interesting, and Sunday Edward asked me to play some of it. It's an hour clip, but I'm not necessarily going to play the whole hour. What do you think about half an hour, Edward?
Yeah, that's probably fine. Yes.
And then we can have some discussion on that. So let me come here. This is image of Samuel, and didn't have his wife name, but I found out it was Jane, from brother Daryl Hogan, who is the descendant's name. And one thing I mentioned in the video, I won't mention it again, but if you see at the bottom of the image, they have on here that they were survivors of a company of slaves abducted by John Brown. So the disinformation started back then when they put that photo out.
Okay. I had to come off mute for that one now. Oh man. Abducted by John Brown.
Yeah. So who else came on? Sister Khalil, right? Yeah, Khalil Shabazz. That sounds like it's Khalil. So let me start the video right here, okay? And then we'll play it for about maybe half an hour and have some discussion on it. Six removed grandparents, right? Great grandparents, right?
That's right. Yep.
All right, and a quick story, and I found out about them through a mutual friend. Well, I don't know if you ever met Denise Green or not. I know you talked to her about phone.
Yeah, Denise and I have not met in person, but we've talked by phone.
Yeah. Well, Denise is a former client of mine when she was in Fayetteville. And she went on to star in a movie about John Brown's life. and we organized a premiere for that movie here in Fayetteville. And then I think I was reading an article that the Trump administrations had an order to remove some of the historical content located at the Harpers Ferry state park or national park. And that's kind of, when I saw that, I said, whoa.
Yep, I did the same thing.
That's where John Brown, and John Brown is one of my favorite historical Caucasians, by the way. That's where he was killed at.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when I reached out to Denise, and that's when she told me about you.
Ah, okay.
And then that's when I extended the invitation to have you come on board. And this is American Muslim 360. We have a series of programming here on Zoom all during the week. And my particular program is Thursdays, 8 o'clock a.m.
Okay.
So Daryl, welcome aboard. And we want to talk about, I have a lot of questions to ask.
So yeah, I was pretty taken aback when I found out that they were removing a lot of historical information. The first thing I went to was, okay, well, this might affect me personally and directly. So I've tried to do a lot this year to keep this story alive. So back in late September, early October, I was invited down to Topeka, Kansas to speak at the opening of Constitution Hall. And we were talking about the Lane Trail and the history of Sam and Jane. And I was really surprised when I got the call to come down and do that presentation. It was sorry, I forgot to turn off my phone. So
Right.
so yeah, I was quite surprised when I got that call. And eh, I wasn't quite sure what to expect going down, and they had asked for my perspective on being a descendant of Sam and Jane, and the 12 that traveled with John Brown. That was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had with a historical group. Just really warm and welcoming people, and really excited about the story. So, in spite of what is going on currently in the U.S., I think there are still a lot of good people out there who are trying to keep these stories alive, and who are proud of the history that we have, and proud of the um, proud of the legacy that these people left behind. So, in order to eliminate history, you have to eliminate the memories, and that's really hard to do when you've got people who are willing to tell the story.
Exactly. Even though they try.
Yeah, they tried.
And
They,
it's not like some of the historical records at Harper's Ferry is so right and exact.
right.
If you look like in the photograph of Sam and Jane Harper,
Mm-hmm.
on the bottom it says, two survivors of the company of slaves abducted by John Brown.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Which, it's interesting. That brings up a story. One of my good friends is second generation Canadian. Well, first generation Canadian. He was the first generation his family born here. Um, he he had a limited view of the history. And when I first found out about Sam and Jane, I was really excited. I kind of was like, wow, I knew we had a background that was based in slavery, but I didn't know that this had happened, that this important event in history took place, and my family was descended from the people who were part of that. I was sitting down with him in a coffee shop and I said, "Do you know who John Brown is?" And he says, "Yeah, he was a trader." I went, "Well, that depends on your perspective." And
Exactly.
so I related the story to him, and he's just as excited about it as I am now. But
Mhm.
he was given a perspective that John Brown was a criminal, and far from it. I mean, this is a Christian man who um, was a firm believer in what the Declaration of Independence said. And he was a firm believer in the Bill of Rights, and he was a firm believer in what America stood for. And there are a lot of people, I think, who still hold those beliefs, regardless of whether you try to hide the history or whether you try to demonize a certain group of people. That just you got to be a pretty powerful voice to do that, and I don't think there's a voice powerful enough to hold those people down.
Right, right. And that's the thing that um and that's why I've been in broadcasting for a little while, and I'm always saying John Brown is one of my favorite historical Caucasians
Hmm.
because I know the image that they have spread around America and the world on John Brown. Whenever he's projected, he's always seen as a crazed Caucasian.
Yeah,
If you look at the pictures that the eyes are wide open, he looks almost mad.
yeah, yeah,
Because the idea is for him to want to steal our property, he got to be mad. And that's how they phrased it. Abducted slaves. Well, and then they said he stole our property.
right.
And it's against the law to steal.
Hmm.
And then you had there was a Fugitive Slave Act that was passed.
Hmm.
So if a slave could escape from his plantation in the South and made his way north, there was a rule that said up north you had to return him back south.
Right. So in Canada, they actually extended that and tried to extend it into Canada and sent slave hunters into Canada to
Hmm.
try to find fugitive slaves.
Right.
Um, I believe I want to say it was Simcoe, who was the governor general at the time, who challenged that. And there was a court case in Canada to challenge whether slave catchers from the United States had any rights in Canada. And because slavery had been abolished in the British Empire, which Canada was a part of at the time, they that case succeeded, and they were no longer able to come up to Canada to retrieve property, as it were. Um,
Well, that gives more understanding to something that's reported that Malcolm X said.
mhm.
And Malcolm said anything south of Canada is south, right?
Yeah.
That was one of his famous sayings back in the way.
Mhm.
Because that's a clear example of that. Slavery was, even though it was illegal up north, so-called illegal up north, they had to sign an agreement with the southern states to return their property
Right.
because the slaves were seen as property. They were
Mhm.
not seen as human beings,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that means that they can be favor the Constitution and this idea of American dream or whatever.
Yeah.
But it stopped when it came to us.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wonder about my ancestors in particular is if they recognize that they were considered property. Because I think it's really hard for a human being to consider yourselves the property of another person. I just, and maybe that's just my perspective on the world, but I read an interview that Sam gave to a newspaper, and he talked, he talked like a person who was very much aware of himself and very much aware of his circumstances, but never as a lesser person, never as a person who, didn't have his own sense of self-determination.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think back to the plight of the slave, and I wonder if, you know, how you can be considered property but never consider yourself property and live in that environment. And I think that's a lot of what drove people to find freedom, is they didn't have self-determination. And that's, I mean, that's inherent, that's core in human beings to want to do that. So, you know, I look at that institution and go, you know, it was always destined to fail, because you can't keep people, you know, in those circumstances. It's just unnatural.
Well, they tried, but I'm, you know, in my lifetime, brother, I'm growing up in the South
Yeah.
and being denied certain rights,
Hmm.
denied certain freedoms, denied
Yeah.
going to certain places. In my lifetime, it was
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
You
And
understand?
and
So,
you know, and when I explain that to my friends, so living in Canada, I've got a very diverse set of friends. So, you know, I've got friends who are European white. I've got friends who are Asian. I've got friends who are
mhm,
Indian, black. You know,
mhm.
and explaining to people who never had to go through that those things happened in my lifetime as well. You know,
Well, see, if they're from India, because I've been to India 3 times,
yeah, yeah.
it shouldn't be a surprise to them because all
No,
they
oh
had to do is
no,
go
no, no,
back
no, no.
home.
Yeah, not those folks. So yeah, they
All
were
they had to do is go
colonized.
back home.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's new to them. No, come on,
yeah,
man. I've been over there, and my heart went out for the underclass.
yeah,
I had to hear them get out of the country because I'd have been labeled a rebel rouser because I asked, them, why you go through all this?
yeah,
So
yeah,
they should and even in parts of the Middle East, the same thing.
yeah.
Brother
But
Daryl, we do have a guest that has a hand up. I want to ask
oh,
a
sure,
question.
yeah.
If I might, please, sir. All right,
Uh,
Michael.
Greetings to you guests, and God's peace be upon you, guest, host, and audience. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
You hit on something that I came upon as a former member of the Nation of Islam. I read the message to the black man, and in that book, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad put a quote from Henry Berry, a Virginia representative uh, of the legislature, Virginia legislature, Henry Berry. And he talked about how attempts were made, that done everything that they could do to keep the light from coming to the slave.
Mm-hmm.
Many, many years later, you know, coming into the following the son of Elijah Muhammad, W.D. Muhammad, I decided to Google this legislator Henry Berry, and I found that there was a debate after the Nat Turner uprising uh, in Hamilton, Virginia, I think it was. But anyway, there was a debate to get rid of slavery, and Henry Berry was on the side of the opposition to slavery, to do away with slavery. He was debating that side, that we need to get rid of this institution that's going to take us down. And there was something that he said that your guest reminded me of. He said, "Do you think that the slaves observing us living freedom, executing, our right to be free, do you think that they're not going to want that?" And that was so insightful to me in terms of he's acknowledging that they don't see themselves as property. They see themselves in a situation that they're not being respected as human beings, but their mind is going to tell them, "I want what Master has." You know, I said, "Praise be to
Right.
God." This is wonderful, and thank you for bringing that up. I didn't catch your name. I came in
Daryl.
late.
My name's Daryl.
Daryl, thank you so
Yes.
much.
You're very welcome, Michael.
Yes.
So yeah, I look at the history of the U.S. and where it's gone post-slavery, and you know, I think about Sam and Jane's journey, what they went through to get to Canada, and you know, I'm really grateful that they made that decision, to find their freedom. And I'm grateful that John Brown was there to help them to freedom, because it really created a different life for me, than I would have had otherwise. And Canada is, Canada's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but um, there's not been this, kind of institutional effort to underclass people, to decide that there's a group of winners and a group of losers. And that's debatable because Canada's got a long history steeped in colonialism. But my experience has been that I've had some tremendous opportunities growing up in Canada, and it kind of made me the person that I became. So
I know for myself, not really fixating on Canada.
mhm.
I remember, what was that, Newfoundland?
Newfoundland, yep,
Isn't
is up
that
to the
where a
east.
lot of slaves,
Nova
ex-slaves?
Scotia is where a lot of
Oh,
the
Nova
slaves.
Scotia,
Yeah.
okay. A lot of ex-slaves, and during the height of that movement, there was as many as 50 or 60,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
slaves in
it's
Canada.
a pretty significant number.
Right. And just watching sports, and I'm seeing all these athletes that are from Canada, right?
Mhm.
And wasn't fixated on that in the past. Uh, but there is a movement. I said, well, what is it about Canada that, and I saw where Canada, in their wisdom or whatever practicality they use, said we're not going to allow slavery to happen here. And
Well, so that bit of history, so Canada was founded as a colony of the British Empire, just like the United States was.
mhm,
Um, After the Revolutionary War, there was so it was founded by the English and the French. So the English owned part of it, the French owned another part of it.
mhm,
After the Revolutionary War, the um, the country was basically became a British Dominion. So the emancipation movement that took place in England also directly affected Canada. So once the monarchy in England decided that, or the Parliament, I'm sorry, once the English government decided that slavery was to be abolished in the British Empire, that affected Canada, and it opened a door for slaves in the United States to actually come up to Canada and be free people. So, and that, I think that, I don't know that history terribly well about how specifically things happened, that set Canada on the path that it ended up being on. But I think Canada became that North Star, that Freedom Star, that um, slaves slaves would find their way up here and basically um, be able to make a way to find self-determination, to find all those things that they couldn't have in the U.S. And it's just the nature of this country and how we are um, that it brings people who are looking for new opportunity, more so than the United States in some cases, I think.
well, we can see now with the advent of the current administration and the wisdom of the current administration here to want to punish the Canadians with tariffs and things of that nature.
And we
Uh,
don't consider it punishment. We're
well, in his
Canadians
mind,
don't. Canadians look
uh,
at it and it's not to get too deeply into politics, but Canadians look at that as just okay. Well, it's nonsense. We got to deal with this for 4 years, and it'll be done.
oh, I forgot to put my disclaimer out there at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
There's no need to say not to get too deep in politics because My audience will tell you we're deep in politics. You don't have to qualify nothing, brother.
Yeah. Well,
Given I do,
yeah, and I have a foot in both countries. So, you know, I was born and raised in Canada, grew up here, have a family
I
in
understand.
Canada. But I'm also a permanent resident in the US, and I have family in the US as well. So
Okay,
I,
I'll honor your wish. I won't get you in trouble. All right.
yeah,
Feel
and
free to come and go.
well, no, if I start talking about this stuff, I'll never talk about Sam and Jane. So that's how that goes. Um, so did um, one of the things that I wanted to touch on was the North is Freedom exhibit, and if you have an opportunity to go online and take a look at it, I think it's northisfreedom.com. Um, it's a photo essay that is a collection of photos of Canadian people who were descended from escaped slaves, people
Okay.
who found freedom in Canada, and
What's
it's
what's the name of the exhibit?
North is Freedom.
North is Freedom. I'm putting
Yep,
it in the chat. Exhibit, right?
right.
And it's a digital exhibit.
So it is a photo exhibit. It's a physical photo exhibit, and the way it was done, they took photographs of um, I forget what the exact number is, but there's a number of people who are descended from slaves who found freedom in Canada. They photographed us and created an exhibition, a photo
Okay.
exhibition, and that was originally installed at the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And that was done as a gift from Canada to the United States when the Smithsonian Museum of African American History was opened. Um, and it was open to the public for I think a year, I think the entire
Okay.
year. And I was invited up to speak at the opening,
Okay.
and
Very good.
I had no idea that, that I would be given that opportunity when I signed up for this. And it started me down a train of, being able to get out and tell people that I've never known in places that I never thought I'd be telling stories. The story of Sam and Jane and how they found freedom, and, more importantly, what that freedom meant to my family. What the difference that it made for my family, that they were able to find their way to Canada. And, that's just one part of my family story, but I think it's probably well, not even probably, that is the most important story in my family. So,
Okay.
it's that started the opportunities that I've had to come out and tell this story to lots of different people.
All right. Do you want to open it up for comments, or you want to continue?
You be the judge. I don't remember everything that transpired after this particular conversation, but yeah, I'll just let you be the judge. It's 36 after the hour. We don't really have a set time limit on this program, so we can talk as long as anybody wants to hang around and talk. So if you want to play more, play more. If you want to end it here, that's fine.
Muhammad Sharif, you get your hand up. Muhammad Sharif, you're on mute, brother.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum to everyone.
Alaikum assalam.
I just have to have one question, is why more of the slaves didn't go to Canada when it's right outside of Detroit? Why didn't more than continue going to Canada?
Because John Brown couldn't kidnap him.
That's a good question, though, and
It is.
that's a part of a discussion I would love for us to have. Once we're done watching this part, whatever part of the video we're going to watch, is actually talking about Canada as a destination and other things that were chosen, you
Right.
know, after emancipation
Right.
and even before emancipation by certain groups in the United States. But
Yes.
I'll hold my tongue until we're ready for that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We'll come back to that, Muhammad.
All right.
All right, let's play 10 more minutes maybe.
And funny story, when the exhibit opened, I was invited obviously to Washington, and I was going to the embassy. I was in a cab with my former wife, and we were on our way to the embassy, and we got there and pulled up to the embassy, and they had taken my picture and blown it up and put it on the side of the embassy. So there's this 4-story picture of me facing the U.S. Capitol on the side of this building, and nobody told me they were going to do that. And you know, I just it just bowled me over. I couldn't believe
That's a
that
blessing, bro.
people would make a big deal about me like that. But you know, just I've had an opportunity to meet some really great people who are really dedicated to this history and making sure that the stories don't fade away, making
Yes,
sure
sir.
that they're out there in public. So you know, going back to one of the original points that I made, you know, it's important that we tell our stories. It's important that we know where we came from. It's important that our kids carry this legacy for us. You know, the kids, grandkids, you know, that needs to live in them as part of who they are.
Yes, sir. Well, Mike, you got another point you want to make?
Yes, I want to ask Daryl, uh, is he familiar with the Colored Convention Project? You can Google it, but it was a movement that happened out of a race riot in Cincinnati, and it lasted for over 50 years. And some of those participants were uh, abolitionists, African Americans, and others, some from out of Canada, that
Mhm.
were involved in this movement that took place because of the need to have a strategy to deal with that oppression. And your ancestors might have been a part of that.
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with it, but yeah, I did just Google it and got a bunch of history links on that. So I'll be sure to follow up on that. And so I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, which is right across the street, or right across the street, across the river from Detroit,
Yeah,
Michigan. It feels like it's across the street
yeah.
sometimes. So yeah, the Michigan Ohio history is really exciting to me, and just understanding what happened in that area when before slavery was abolished. So yeah, that's definitely something I'll follow up on. Thank you,
I
Michael.
mean, there were everyday folks, and there were notables like Frederick Douglass,
Well,
and there was I can't think of her name, but there was a lady who later moved from Canada to D.C.
mhm.
and she was a publisher and a very notable lady. I can't think of her name right now, but it was a movement that lasted for over 50 years.
Yeah. Are you thinking of Harriet Tubman?
No, no, oh
Okay,
no,
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 because
no.
she was,
This,
yeah, she lived in St. Catharines, Ontario, which
yeah.
is up near
Oh,
Niagara Falls.
I didn't know that. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She
Thank
lived in
you.
Canada for a good part of her life.
Wow.
And you know, the interesting thing is I don't think Frederick Douglass at the time knew that he was a notable. Um,
I believe I believe you're right.
So, interesting thing about the journey for Sam and Jane is they landed in Detroit on March 12th, 1859, and John Brown was meeting with Frederick Douglass in Detroit on that day. So I'm not sure if Sam and Jane actually met him or if they were shooed across the border before before that
Yeah.
meeting. But
Yeah.
you know, the the story that I got was that John and John Brown and Frederick Douglass were to meet to plan the Harper's Ferry raid or discuss the Harper's Ferry raid.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
See, I'm learning something right now already.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like Martin meeting with Malcolm X. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They don't talk about those things.
Yeah.
Brother Ishmael, you can hand up now.
Yes, greetings, peace and greetings to you and the guest, your special guest. And I guess talked about the importance of the younger generation and his family, you know, keeping this legacy going. And he's also talked about his ancestors' decision to seek freedom. And tying those in with today's time with the young people, are there conversations about what that looks like today, that seeking of freedom in the conversations that kind of can tie it in to keep this legacy going? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah. So do you mean institutional conversations or do you mean um, like family
Well,
conversations?
well, more like family conversations, so
Yeah.
that, cause you know,
Yeah.
with the younger generation, they're not as well in the U.S. I can say a lot of them aren't as enthusiastic, and I'm just trying to see
Mhm.
ways that you've tied it in to keep it going, so that they
Yeah.
can, they can feel powerful and feel a source of pride.
Yeah.
And I'll
So
stop there.
so I'm just going to be real about that and say we have a problem, first of all. Um, Secondly, when I found out about my family's legacy, I made sure that it became a part of our family history. And I have to give my ex-wife credit for really driving that story. She was the one who did the genealogical research to find Sam and Jane, and really got me interested in it. And my boys, I have three sons. My boys are all aware of the history. They're all aware of what the history means, and just by virtue of we had opportunity as I was raising them, they were raised to consider themselves important and special, and they've all gone off and done some pretty amazing things with their lives. So I think it's really important, especially when children are involved, when we have small children, that we give them a legacy of strength and self-determination and um, a vision of what they can actually become.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot of information. Y'all, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on
Yeah, my
the
pleasure.
program. A lot of information to give. Um, I went on GPS and did some search, not GPS, but Chat GPT
Uh-huh.
to do some search. See what recording was stopped. Anyway, I went on Chat GPT, and as I tell my audience a few weeks ago, when I first went on that chat and I asked questions, it was almost like I get attacked, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I guess my particular version of Chat GPT is used to me, so mine has become woke.
In what sense are we using that word? Because we all know what it really means as opposed to what it's been.
Mine is in the real sense. It says from the neighborhood, woke.
Yep. Yep.
Because I come back and I ask questions, and it engages me, right? So
Yeah. 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 And so I know a little bit about AI. So this is a good topic. So I'll let you finish what you were saying, and then we'll go
but
into
don't disillusion me, man. Let me think.
that.
I don't want to get too deep in it.
Yeah.
Let me think that it's communicating with me.
Oh, it is.
But
Yeah.
maybe there's some algorithm saying, "Hey, this guy's kind of sharp. We need to up our response to him." So when I ask questions, they say, "Great question," and then they'll
Mhm.
begin to give me some real stuff. So the first thing I asked him was, why is John Brown accused of abducting slaves and not freeing slaves?
Mhm.
That was the first question. And it came back with the legal concepts at the time, where slaves were property, uh, that type of thing. And the Fugitive Slave Act was returning property to the plantation and whatever. And that gave me a little understanding of what the mindset was of the slave master,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Nothing to do with the morality of it.
Not at all. No.
John Brown was steeped in the morality of it,
Mm-hmm.
and that created a big conflict.
Mm-hmm.
You're stealing our property? No, I'm freeing slaves. I'm
Not even
freeing
that.
human beings that
I'm
shouldn't be
freeing.
slaves.
He was freeing people.
Yeah,
He
human
didn't
beings.
envision us as slaves. He didn't envision those people as slaves. He was freeing people who he thought deserved the right to self-determination and freedom.
Right.
And you know, you're absolutely right. It's all a matter of context. You know, we look at it now and say, well, how could people? Fact of the matter is they did. And their mindset was that these beings, because we weren't considered people at the time, these beings were property that we owned who were doing work for us. And they knew, I mean, in your soul, you cannot say, look at another human being and go, that is not a person. You can't do that.
Well, now
But
we can
they,
see when I fast forward to today in the great debate that we have and going back and forth with people of races and whatever.
mhm.
Now we can understand from their point of view why they have to keep it that way so they can justify themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because they always talking about this is what Jesus, the Christian in the Bible and things of that
Yeah.
nature,
Yep.
right? Even though what they're doing, even in the Bible, is wrong.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I'm a Christian. So I look at things that are going on and I go, well, my Bible doesn't say that. I don't know how
Yeah.
you pulled that out of the Bible, but mine doesn't say that. So you know it's and the Bible was used to great extent to justify slavery from the pulpit.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
so you know I think the the failure of man allows things like this to happen,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
is.
and I believe that God um, eventually sets things right
Oh, no,
because
no doubt. No
because
doubt.
in our souls we are not wired to treat each other in those
Right.
ways, and you know things have a funny way of falling into the natural order.
And our fates are the same. It's
Yeah.
either you get it in this life or the next life.
Yeah.
And I would rather get punishment in this life and get
Yeah, absolutely.
forgiveness than to wait into the next life.
Yep, absolutely.
Sister Martha, you get your hands up. Go ahead.
Yes, Martha Nyla here from St. Petersburg, Florida, and born Floridian. And I say that because I want to know, and thank you so much for this informed conversation as well.
Thank you.
To your guest at Daryl, um, I'm phrasing this away because and I've mentioned often, other audiences know to move and Christian background. I say Christian very lightly, but the
Mhm.
Bible more so. Uh, how do you move yourself, regardless of geographics, but move your internal self from the image, being the so-called white people, and differentiating a belief in God and not having that white image, and then deferring the idea of the cruelties from white. It's almost like forgiving them because they have the same image, or is that part of your thinking or thought pattern?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. So I believe in forgiveness, you know, whether that's God's forgiveness of us or our forgiveness of other people. That doesn't mean I forget, and it doesn't mean that, you know, I don't stay woke. but I believe that we're called to love and to forgive. And you know, like I said, I've met a lot of great people, and most of the people that I've engaged with on this journey with Sam and Jane have been white people who are, you know, determined to make sure this story gets told, and to determine that you know, they uplift me as a person and a storyteller and someone who has a real connection to this story. You know, if I was unable to forgive people, then I think that limits my ability to make a difference, and it limits my ability to say, yes, I'm a child of God, and you know, I I forgive, but you know, that doesn't mean that my eyes are closed to the reality of what happened then, and you know, things that have happened since.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brother Mike, put your hands back up.
Yes, sir. This is stimulating thought. I love history, you know,
Yeah.
and I've read where Howard Thurman, the great theologian, African American theologian, talked about reading the Bible to his grandmother,
Hmm.
who was a former slave, and she insisted that he pass certain verses up, certain sections up, because those were the verses that the slave master had them, learn or understand, that
Hmm.
these were specifically to condition the slave to be a slave,
Yeah.
uh, and the idea of white. I use Google. I'm still learning this new technology, but you can Google white people and find its origin and how it's used as a social construct to give them like a performance enhancing drug.
Hmm.
When you Google it, you find Thomas Middleton in a play introduced this idea or this terminology of white people, and how it has been used with the imagery of Jesus
Hmm.
to bond them and to condition them to see themselves in this, and thank God there's sufficient number of Caucasians, European Americans like John Brown that didn't go for it.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, I look at race as completely a social construct, and that's all it is. It's meant to bucket people because humans. So I'm a technology person, and one of the things that we do in our heads is we organize things. We organize data. Um, Really, race is just a way to organize people, and then um, you can apply activities, you can apply rules, you can apply circumstances to those people because they've been placed in that bucket. So it's just a way to generalize, and really, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. We're all people. We've all got the same DNA. All got the same blood running through us. So, you know, I when discussions of race come up, um, you know, one of the things that I mention, and I have a small group of people that I discuss these things in depth with, and um, you know, when they come up, you know, my reminder is, well, race is something that we created in order that we can enforce the rules of society. Simple as that.
Yes, and Frederick Douglass, if you Googled what to me is the Fourth of July, what to the slave is the Fourth of July, and the extended version uh, was James Earl Jones does one that's shorter, but the one that's done by Ossie Davis is phenomenal.
Hmm.
What to the slave is the Fourth of July. He gave a speech, and he talked about Christianity and the documents of this country. And he actually, said there was one particular remark he made, uh, that the behavior of the citizens and government would shame a nation of savages.
Mhm.
And I thought that was a powerful indictment, and perhaps an eye opener to some of them.
Yeah, and I can't believe that there's anybody who would not agree that that system was egregious, that the system of slavery was egregious. Um, and whether you want to make apologies for it or not, you you can't deep down within your soul as a reasonable human being go, that was okay. You know, the reason that people fought and died and risked their lives, my ancestors risked their lives to come to Canada so that they could be free people.
Yes,
Um, it's got to be a pretty tough situation for you to say, okay, well, I'm gonna ride in a wagon from Kansas or from Missouri to Canada, and I don't even know where Canada is, but I'm going there because they told me I could be free. They told me I wouldn't have to work like this anymore. They told me that I wouldn't have to have somebody else tell me what to do with every breath that I take.
that's right.
Hey, you got a few minutes left. Sister Martha, you want to say something real quick?
Yes, I can't by forego this question, and that is the institutionalized benefits. I think Adam, you kind of like circled it in a way, but the benefits that have been derived from this long last system, and as some may say, okay, reparations, some may say uh, sharing, just being willing to share in the lot of what is institutionalized in a country that supported or was part of the, I don't know if I say gradual transit, the transportation of people for forced labor. What are your thoughts on that? Not specifically reparations, but how do we, in talking with our children too, merge into the system to change it to be fair and economical for all engaged in the public life?
Yeah, see, I have a unique perspective on that. I think because I grew up in Canada and because I work in the United States, that's where I built my career. Um, so growing up in Canada, there was just opportunity. It just existed, and I went to the same schools as everybody else, and I got the same. Well, I wouldn't say I got the same guidance as everybody else because I think, looking back on it, there were some people in my life who didn't necessarily, educators who didn't necessarily have my best interest at heart. But, between the people who did and my family encouraging me to become something, and that was the phrase that they use, you need to become something. I found myself always like trying to reach for that brass ring, I think. And when I talk to my friends that I grew up with, it's the same way. They were reaching for something so that they could become something. And um, going back to the idea of self-determination again, I don't in the way that things are today, I think there's lots of opportunity. And one of the challenges in that I see in the Black community is the idea of true community. We talk about this thing called Black culture, and the thing that we have today isn't Black culture at all, in my opinion. The rap and the entertainment and the sports and all that, that's not Black culture. Black culture is a group of people who are self-deterministic, who are willing to go the extra mile to become something and to make their communities something. And really, couple of things. One is we need to depend on each other to build something, and I think we've come a long way, obviously, since 1859, since Sam and Jane made their way to Canada. But we still have a long way to go. And in spite of in spite of everything that is built to keep us um, as a subtext of the American dream, if we come together as a people and we encourage one another to become something, that is the difference maker. Nobody's going to do it for us. You can't, I hear people say all the time, well, the system is built against them. Well, yeah, there are systematic things that make it harder for you, but reach out, go for that brass ring and become something. That's your goal. Nobody can take that away from you.
I mean, thank you so much. Thank you, Adam.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that question. Brother Daryl, again, appreciate you accepting the invitation to come on board.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to
I
everybody.
wanted to find out, I know for me, more about your experience and how much your experience of Sam and Jane, as you refer to them, how much of that has remained in your spirit to learn and
Yeah.
I mean, that's real stuff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was spiritual because I had no idea who these people were 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm almost 60 years old.
Right.
But it's made a huge difference in the last 20 years of my life. And I think in the first 40 years of my life, that spirit was there.
Yes. Well, you've carrying it well, brother, and you're working and spreading it. I think it's a story that should be widely told, and we're glad to be able to do our part in having that, putting that in the environment.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the platform. It's been
not
great.
a problem. And if anything happening in Canada or here that we need to be informed of, feel free to check back and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
But you're right, in terms of community, and that's one thing we try to do in this regard. We're part of a community in America, unique community, and we stress working and building together.
Yeah.
We come out of a forum that said do for self. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're hoping it spreads to more and more people. Because I can tell you, especially in light of this, just coming off the local elections and statewide elections or whatever, it's politics. But I can see how we get played all the time because of us not being awake and aware of what they're trying to do. So
yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you again for coming aboard. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
We gotta. All right, that's the end of the broadcast. See, appreciate everybody hanging in there. But we can open it up for comments or questions or discussion if you like.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Martha Nyla here. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Even listening back to the replay, there's some things as he was speaking, I was trying to, you're trying to put your mind in the time span and you're reliving the history through what you've read, and to actually see when you showed the pictures, to actually see them and their attire caught me as well.
Okay. I'm sure they were in Canada when that was taken. Much better environment for them.
So if they were in Canada when it was taken, then who wrote the subscript?
I'm not sure. Well, the question is, when was the subscript added? I don't think the subscript was there when the picture was taken. That particular print image is available at the New York Public Library System in New York, right? So that was done in the South, based on Malcolm's description.
Okay.
The deep northern South.
Right. So I'm sure that was added afterwards. That's not part of the original picture at all. Believe me.
Yeah, it'd be
So
kind of hard to believe that the fine people of Missouri at that time would have taken such a dignified photo of their property. Even if they were trying to sell their property, they wouldn't address them in such a dignified manner.
Believe me, if they were posed in Ohio or I mean Missouri, they would have got captured and never get made it back to Canada. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is interesting, the question that was posed by Brother Muhammad Sharif earlier about why more enslaved Africans or African Americans, even if you want to call them, since they were 3/5 of an American,
Right.
did not go to Canada. And, I think probably if anybody had been able to recount step by step that journey from Missouri to Canada, that would be the tell-all, because it would be very perilous to travel with African American, with ex-enslaved people across state lines. They would not have had papers that allowed them to cross state lines.
Right.
So if they're discovered, I mean, they may not be arrested if they happen to be in Illinois or something like that in their travels to Canada, but word may have been put out on them that white man traveling with X number of Africans. If you lost some of your property, they may have just passed through here, type of thing. So it was perilous. The Underground Railroad, that travail, which was in the eastern part of the United States, up into Canada, that was perilous. So for people from Florida, from Georgia, from Alabama, Mississippi, enslaved people trying to make that journey to Canada, it would have been very difficult for them to make that journey. So we do have historical knowledge of slaves in the South and the Southwest escaping into Mexico. And we have the same knowledge of some of them going west into territories that obviously were not part of the United States, the Mexicos and New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, whatever that territory was called back in those days, even as far west as California, of runaway ex-enslaved people escaping enslavement and going that direction. And just as much as the people that went to Canada or probably went to Mexico, they didn't know what they were going to find in that direction. They just knew it wasn't going to be what they were a part of at the moment. So I think it would be good for us. I mean, I've always heard about the African Americans that went to Mexico. I've never seen like a number put on them, but I'm sure that some of that information exists, or colonies or townships or whatever that they formed in Mexico. There's probably some information on that.
Yeah, some went to Florida and settled amongst the Indians there.
Well, yeah, amongst the Seminoles and what's the other group of Indians? I forget that other group. Choctaw.
Yeah, the Choctaw.
Yeah.
Choctaws and the Seminoles. Yeah. And those groups would not give them back.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they directed said, "Come get them." They dared them.
Yeah. I asked ChatGPT why more didn't go to Canada. Y'all, you want to know what it says?
Let's see what chat says to say.
What is that?
One is the distance and geography. Canada was very far away from most enslaved people, especially those in the deep South. like states like Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. They had to travel hundreds or even thousands of miles on foot, often through unfamiliar territory, forests, rivers, and mountains, all while being hunted. The journey north was extremely dangerous. Slave catchers, patrols, and dogs were sent to track down runaways. Many who tried to escape were caught and punished harshly or even killed. Because of these risks, some people didn't dare attempt such a long journey. All right.
So one thing comes to mind is that you came ashore in the United States in Mobile, Alabama. You were brought into the port of Mobile. You were an enslaved person, and you're shipped out to a plantation in Florida, Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, so on and so forth, across the South, right? North Carolina, South Carolina. You have no idea where Canada is or where anything is.
Right.
So you don't know if Canada is 1,200 miles or 12 miles.
Right.
You have no clue. Somebody came back and said, I just took 7 people to Canada. You're going to look at them and go, okay, how long did it take you? Right. And I'm sure that dissuaded some people, right? It was like 5 months. Took us 5 months to get there. Yeah. That's going to make you go, can't make it. There's no way. I'm too scared. Can't make it. So I get that. I get that part of it. But the other part of it is, I think one of the things that he said about his ancestors is it probably had to be on everybody's mind. And some of them had the courage to try it, and a lot of people didn't have the courage to try it. Like I told you, I think I was talking to you, Adam, the other day about a couple of my ancestors, cousins, many times removed. The husband or the father of the children escaped, but the mother stayed because she had young children, and she didn't want to risk her young children, her getting caught with the young children and that kind of punishment. But the husband would come back and forth, and through whatever kind of signs or whatever, he would let the family know that he was hiding in the woods or whatever, and they would take food out to him. And the little girl, my cousin, didn't know she was taking food and leaving it out at a particular place for her father. But that was the case, is that not everybody could go even if they wanted to go. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the American Colonization Society. So they come up with this great plan that they're going to take freed Africans who were living as free men in the North primarily, and some enslaved people, and they were going to take them back to Africa, to what is now present day Liberia. So this, I think, happened, and somebody correct me because I can't remember the exact dates, but this happened in maybe like the 1820s, something like that, something around that time period. And this was before, I think it happened after Great Britain had stopped the slave trade, but maybe before Great Britain had set up a system to free all people who had been enslaved, because they had like this period where they said no more transportation of slaves. We're not going to have any more of that, but there's a time period between this date and when all enslaved people are free. There was some time period in there. So I wonder if that factored into them saying, well, let's take people back to Africa, as opposed to just saying, let's just take people to Canada. Because it seemed like that would have been the more obvious choice. These are English speaking people for the most part, a large majority of them, I think, who their ancestors were originally part of the British Empire. And here we have, British, French, Canada, a few hundred miles away, as opposed to across the Atlantic Ocean. So just a thought on my part. I wonder why that didn't come to mind for them.
I don't know.
Because they didn't have the internet, didn't have Google.
Well, keep in mind now, when I was in high school, my mother wanted to send me to Catholic school. We moved to Atlanta, and she enrolled me in a Catholic school not too far from where we were living. And in that school, it was like out of 400 students, maybe 10 were African Americans. All right. Wasn't no race problem. So we had an assembly at the end of my sophomore year because they had an African American Catholic high school and they were closing that one down. It was named Drexel. And so they called the students over in the assembly and said, hey, some of the students from Drexel are going to come through and they're going to visit the school. So the word among the student group, they're going to come over here and mess up our good thing. And me being chief Negro at the time, yeah, that's right, they ain't going to mess this up. Being chief Negro. Then it was in class, and then I saw the students walking through the halls, and my whole mindset changed, seeing all those brothers and sisters, right? So the next year we had more racial things because it went from 10 African Americans out of 400 to about 120 out of 500. So now it's a problem. You understand? There wasn't enough ex-slaves in Canada for it to be a problem. If it became like Detroit, New York, if it became like what happened when we left the South and started going north, Caucasians had a different mindset. There's just too many of them now. You understand? So that might have been some of the things operating in Canada in other ways. They didn't want a whole lot of them, right? They can absorb what they absorbed, but if it became to numbers like it was coming in New York and Detroit and other places, they might have felt they couldn't absorb it. And that's just me talking. I could be way off base, but that's just me talking.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some relevance to what you say. I'm trying to think in my mind without going to Chat GPT to get the number of what the estimate was of the number of enslaved people of African descent were in the United States in, say, 1840, for example. If at some point in time you had 50 to 60,000 people of African descent living in Nova Scotia, and I don't know exactly when that number hit, what year that number hit, of the percentage of, say, even if you just took enslaved people from Virginia and Maryland, Delaware, maybe, northwestern North Carolina, and a percentage of them went to Canada, if it would have tilted the balance that much that the Canadians would have thrown up their hands and say, we need to build a wall, seal our border or something.
It could be. I don't know. It could be.
Because Nova Scotia, I've seen pictures of Nova Scotia, and man, there's a lot of people of African descent in Nova Scotia at a certain period of time in the 19th century into probably the early part to World War II of the 20th century. Lot of people of African descent in Nova Scotia.
Yeah. And that's different from the western part,
Right.
That's different.
Well, the western part's too hard to get to.
Well, right, part closer to Detroit and other places.
Oh yeah, okay. So that part, yeah.
Not real west, but
okay.
Ontario and
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that could hopefully Muhammad, he's still that might answer your question, Muhammad. What do you think? Oh, you're still on mute.
Is he on mute?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he just came off mute.
yeah,
Muhammad.
unmute. I
Yeah.
guess that answers part of the question.
Is there a part that went unanswered, Muhammad? Is there anything that you want to bring up that you'd like to discuss about that whole situation?
No, I just want to, just wondering is why they're so close to Canada. Remember, I went to one of our conventions, and my wife and I, we went down to in the water, so it's a waterway there. So that's Canada right across the. Hey, we can throw a rock over in Canada, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
why did they stop and then continue to go across the hundreds of boats and go across right into Canada and be free?
It probably, well, it probably wasn't developed as the way it is now. Is one thing. Two, if they made it to Minnesota or Michigan or whatever, especially the bigger cities in Michigan, they weren't really on a plantation,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things. And I think the abolitionists did that because of the Fugitive Slave Act.
Mm-hmm.
They wasn't free until they got it to Canada. You still had slave catchers and things after them. But the ones that were living in Michigan or Minnesota or whatever, they were free.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. Now you just gave me something else to think on. That they were free if they
Well,
was
for
in
what?
Michigan, right in that area.
Yeah, for one of
Mm-hmm.
better idea, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't free now, but
Yeah. Your degree of freedom. What does freedom mean, right? So which brings up a question for me, and this is something I've researched on my own family history. So, a majority of my family that is Texan, going back to at least my great grandfather on both sides of my family here in Texas, there were some of them that were given their freedom. A couple of brothers in particular who were given their freedom and were then sent away to Ohio, where they actually were able to go to college. But the thing I've never asked myself is the paperwork that they had to have to be able to travel,
hmm
in what, 1850, 1850, I think. I want to say, no, it's probably closer to probably around 1856, 1857, when they were given their freedom and sent away, partially because they were mixed race. They were children of the plantation owner and enslaved woman. But they were sent away to Ohio, so they would have had to have a certain paperwork, or somebody could have just taken them and said, "No, you're a slave. I'm taking you to my plantation in Kentucky," or whatever the case may be. So I don't even know necessarily how that worked back in those days, or if somebody was forging papers for people who were runaways and would go to Ohio or Pennsylvania, New York State, and start living and start working. If they had forged papers, if slavers came looking for them, and that type of thing, people simply hiding them. If they noticed somebody new in town that was asking about escaped slaves, people would hide them, I'm sure. But that had to be scary for people as well.
Well, if you really want to know what it's like, just check out Texas and California and ICE.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Same difference. They take, you can have, there are no papers, but they're going to take you anyway without any due process. Ain't a whole lot of difference now.
True. Yeah.
You just got took.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the thing, and I think I mentioned this to somebody before, the thing that struck me about Daryl and his presentation, and really probably if you had a chance to just sit down and talk with him over a couple of 3 days, is there's this mindset that he has and other African Americans I've met who grew up in Canada. And of course, my younger son was in college in Canada for a year and a half, but he kind of expressed the same thing about the African American Canadians that he met at university in Canada, is that their perception, and maybe things have simply been hidden from them, but their perception of their lives is that they don't deal with the same trauma or that dreadful feeling of being descendants of enslaved people that a lot of African Americans here in the United States do. Maybe it's been because their history's been scrubbed for them. People don't remind them of where they came from. You know, it's not a part of the national conversation in Canada, so it's not brought up to them. You know, that type of thing. That can definitely be a part of it. But all those that I've met from Canada, they have much less of a connection to chattel slavery than we do in the United States. It's just not a part of their conversation.
Well, I listened carefully each time in some of the comments he made.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he went out of the way. He stressed, I'm say out of the way, he stressed good Caucasians.
Yeah.
And maybe if I get a chance to talk to him again, I can. Maybe he doesn't know our community. Maybe he think we're coming from the white man's the devil. You understand?
I do. Yeah, sure.
Maybe he's saying that because he really don't know us and he wanted to cover himself. That he don't want to think that we think all Caucasians are devils or something, whatever. And maybe if we get a chance to interact again, we can put those things, those fears at ease. You know. But I noticed he went extra 2 times to say that. And maybe it's because of who he thinks we are. I don't know. Because it might have been, I don't know if it is now, it might have been his first time interacting with Muslims, you know? I don't know. It could be.
Well, okay, but he's being from Windsor, which is not that far from Toronto. So
Okay.
it wouldn't be his first time interacting with Muslims. It may be his first time interacting with a significantly, well, I mean, it was all African American Muslims on the Zoom.
Not in where he's from. No, no. I mean, maybe
Man,
he's never interacted.
Toronto is thick with
Toronto,
Muslims.
yeah.
Thick with Muslims.
Yeah, but they're not African American Muslims.
Exactly. That's my
That's what I'm
point.
saying. They're
Right.
not African American Muslims.
Right.
Mhm.
So he could have an image of African American Muslims coming from black nationalism
Mm-hmm.
rather than the University of Islam. Heck, we got a problem with the immigrant Muslims with that.
Right. Right.
So maybe that might be some of it. I don't know.
Mhm.
Just
Do
curious.
we since he works in the United States, do we know where he works? I wonder.
I didn't ask him.
So
What
that's
city did
one.
he live in? What city does he live in Canada?
He's from Windsor.
Yeah,
Okay.
Windsor.
Well, I remember being in Detroit, and Windsor is very close to Detroit.
Right across the
Right.
whatever.
Right across the river.
Across the
Mhm.
what is it? The lake, right? Big lake.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
lake. I forget the name of the lake, but one of the Great Lakes
Okay.
is there. So that's a question is where he actually lives and works in the United States. We kind of wonder what his exposure is to our community. Because if he living and working in Philadelphia, man, he can't avoid us there. So it just depends on where he lives and works. The other thing is he did mention ex-wife.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's currently married or not, but I wonder because he didn't mention anything about his ex-wife looking at her background. She was digging into his background.
Right.
So that leaves the question of whether his ex-wife was also a person of African descent. And that too, if you're not married to somebody of African descent, just having half of your life being spent around people who are not of African descent, you are cutting yourself off a little bit. And I have nothing against interracial relationships, but you are cutting yourself off a little bit from the full African American experience, the fullness of it when you're in a mixed race relationship. Because their perspective, I don't care if if that person's Asian or Hispanic or European or whatever, their perspective on race relations is going to be different. Even as much as they care about, love you, their view of everybody else who looks like you is different.
Right. All right. Any other comments? If not, I'm getting ready to head out.
Okay. I tell you what, you can close us out this evening.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Oh Lord, give us the best benefits in this life and the best benefits in life to come, and save us from the torment of the hellfire. Ameen.
Ameen.
Me.
Salaam alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank everyone.
Mhm.